I actually think that the mobile game business is doing incredibly well. And the reason I think that is a couple things. So first of all, the number of devices sold each year continues to grow by astronomical amounts. We've moved 1 billion smartphones. Next year we'll sell 1 billion more. There'll be more than 2 billion smartphones in use. So those are all phones that are capable of a great 3D experience. And that's driving mobile games to greater and greater success. So the industry as a whole is doing extremely well. But I notice there are a couple of things where the industry seems to be stuck. The same issues seem to come up every single year. Discoverability, the issue of fragmentation. Now we're worried about whether or not Samsung's going to fork Android, or maybe HTML, the implementation won't be quite right. So there are concerns around fragmentation. There are always issues around discoverability. How do I find a game? That's particularly problematic for a small startup company. If you're starting out as a new publisher, independent, mobile is a good opportunity, but how do you make people discover your game, no matter how good your game is? There are something like 1,000 games published every day in the iTunes stores. Okay, most of them sync without a trace. Something on the order of 1 out of 4 apps is downloaded once, used, and then deleted from the phone. So the number of apps that are deleted immediately is quite high, and more than half the apps in the App Store haven't been downloaded ever, once, not even one time. So there are some high barriers to being discovered or being found. And one of the things that's driving that is that the most successful companies, the companies that have built these really durable franchises, great games like Clash of Clans, which continues to be #1 for about a year now, more than a year in some markets. Those companies are in a position now to spend so much on cost per acquisition or cost per install that they're willing to outspend any startup company. And so that creates a real challenge. It might drive some consolidation. So I think right now you have too many game developers chasing too few truly original concepts. One of the things I spoke about today is the look-alike games, the copycat games, the games that look just like Clash of Clans, and that's how they advertise themselves. I think this is a losing strategy. If your business model depends on imitating Supercell, you're probably going to fail. You're probably not going to ever outdo Supercell at what they're best at. Well, one of the things that we see happening right now in mobile, and particularly in tablets, is increasing power. And this has happened really, really quickly. If you think about the first 3 generations of the Apple iPad, we went from a reasonably good experience to a super powerful tablet in just 2 generations, and that all happened inside of an 18-month span. This year, we're going to see tablets that have the equivalent power of an Xbox 360, and eventually, probably at the end of the year, you'll see a new generation that can approximate the power of a PlayStation 4. So rendering power is not the issue at all for mobile games. The ability to create great graphic experiences is already there. And that's reflected in the fact that when you do a survey of game developers and ask them which platform they're developing for next, most of them cite mobile as their #1 platform. That's an enormous shift from just a few years back, where it was very hard to get developers interested in mobile in general. People were developing for consoles or for PCs. They tended to be dismissive of that. So I think there's some exciting developments coming in this year that'll continue to make it an attractive place for game developers to work. Well, right now I think the mobile game business is extremely inward focused. And everyone seems to be pursuing the same concepts and in a way iterating on the same concepts. I encourage the mobile game industry to get their heads out of the phone and look around, because what's happening now with the Internet of Things and all the new wearable devices that are in their very infant stages is that we're starting to embed intelligence and networking into every device, every electronic device. And what that means is pretty soon there'll be a constellation of devices around you, in the area around you, that you can communicate with. I think you'll still have your mobile phone or your smartphone as the kind of ignition key, the glue, if you will, that connects all those things together. The reason I believe that is we have the most confidence in that device. We trust that device with most of our identity, with our most personal information. I don't think we're going to share that with a lot of other devices, nor are we going to want to set up and personalize all those other devices. It'd be much easier to manage it all through an app on the smartphone. And so in that way then, that opens up the field, the playing field will grow, I think, in a dramatic way, because suddenly every network device in your vicinity, perhaps every network device in the city, can become a field for gameplay, and that opens us up to some great new imaginative vistas. That's what I'm particularly excited about. MGF is considered to be a great show. Around the world, it has a good reputation. I've heard about it for many, many years. I'm very happy to be here this time because what you find at MGF is you've got the leaders from the mobile game business here. For instance, yesterday, you had two of the greatest game companies from Asia, from China and from Korea here, and you can meet the principals of those companies right here. So if you want to meet the leaders in the mobile game business, this is really the place to come, and that has been the reputation this event has had for many, many years. It's exciting for me to finally come here and experience it firsthand. Yeah, it's true. The mobile experience varies by country, and it varies by region. And it is true, we have different usage habits as a result of that. Part of that has to do with how mobile services are packaged and presented and sold, so the price point matters. The United States has been an interesting market to look at because until about 2007, we were behind the rest of the world. In a way, if you wanted to find out about the future of wireless, the last place you would go would be the United States. But that changed dramatically now. And so now the US, with the massive rollout of LTE across the country, you've got more broadband activity there than anywhere. Now the rest of the world's catching up. Now, LTE is rolling out rapidly, about 250 networks in deployment worldwide. So for instance, in Brazil, they're rolling out LTE as fast as they can because all the people are coming there from around the world for the World Cup this year. And so you'll start to see this when countries get saturated with 4G, you see user behavior change in a really significant way. Our consumption of internet doubles when we have wireless broadband, when we have true 4G services. It doubles, and that's consistent in every nation and every network where they've rolled out 4G. And by the way, that's great news if you're developing mobile content. Because what that means is you've got new time in your day. People wonder, how is it possible that we're adding an extra hour of video watching every day? And the reason we're able to do that is because with our mobile devices, with 4G, you can watch video when you're waiting for a bus, when you're standing in line, when you're in the loo, wherever you happen to be, you can get video, you can get entertainment, and you could get a game. So I think the rollout of 4G around the world is a gigantic step in the right direction. And the countries that present that in a reasonable price point for people and really make it accessible to them. That's going to really matter. The other thing I'm noticing here in Eastern Europe is the rollout of these Firefox phones. So these are smartphones that retail for less than 60 euros, which is incredible. And in some places, they're even priced below 50 euros. I mean, we're approaching a disposable smartphone at that price. That's going to put the power of the smartphone in the hands of hundreds of millions of new customers. In places outside of the developed world, say the emerging markets, this is probably going to be the first chance that people have to get access to the internet. Those some 4 billion humans on this planet who've never experienced the internet before, their first experience will be through a smartphone that's priced under 50 euros. That's an enormous advance.